relax, and keep your eyes to the skies.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S4, where we talk about the serious issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains, here in our studio in Cape Horn, Washington.
Hey, whoa.
What?
Show's about conspiracy. You don't tell anyone where we're at now.
Oh, right? All right, folks, tonight is March 7th. Can you believe it's already March? We're already trudging right through 2021. As we trudge right through 2021, and the rumors of leaked documents from the Pentagon I have yet to find. It should remind us all in this field the need to go back to the beginning. MJ-12, or Magi, Project Sign in 1948, to Project Grudge in 1949, to Project Blue Book in 1952 to 69. But did it really end there? Then we throw in smaller programs such as the Robertson Panel, a CIA think tank who only pushed the dangers of UFO study and its effects on the public. And I think it's really where the assholes started the disinformation campaigns. You also have Condon Report and the estimate of the situation. Two more reports who really looked at UFOs and honestly if they were from off-world and a threat to national security. So, we have our fundraiser in Forest Moon Paranormal, which is still going till the middle of the month. If you want to help us out with equipment, by all means, jump into the FMP group. You can find Forest Moon Paranormal on Facebook. Look for the group. March 14th, next week, we have Antarctica, and what mysteries does it hold?
Ice.
Kayla's jumping up and down.
I know, I'm so excited for
And
ice.
the 21st, we have the March Roundtable, and the 28th, well, we actually have an investigation here in Concrete. So on the 28th, we're actually talking about that investigation.
Yes.
Along with Northwest Paranormal Research Group. There we go.
There you go.
All right. So how's everyone doing tonight? Tonight we have Barry and Bill with us.
Fantastic.
Good. Kentucky still there?
No.
I think so.
Okay.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
They all moved.
Yeah, I'll move to Tennessee.
All of them.
To Tennessee.
Yeah, including the rakes.
The rakes too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rake migration.
Oh, no. No. We're not taking over.
You're not taking the rakes with you? Oh, come on, Barry.
You
We're sending them to Washington.
You didn't hear about the great rake
That's
migration
okay.
of 21?
I think
Yes.
Kayla would be excited about having rakes in Washington.
Oh, I haven't
Yes,
seen
we're-
my
Senator
family
Rake.
in so long.
Yes. We have. We've got a vote up for her for Queen of the Rake.
Do you want a rake in California, Joe?
No.
No?
You know, I never hear about them out here.
I don't hear about them in Washington either. They're all in Kentucky.
They're all in
Well,
Kentucky.
I saw a picture of something chasing a moose up that way. I thought it was in Washington. I saw a video of.
Oh, I saw that.
We don't
Yeah,
have
I think it was a.
Yeah, we do.
Do we?
Something was
Yeah,
stalking a moose.
Do we have a moose?
On Eastern Washington.
Eastern
Oh,
Washington.
okay. I don't get it.
And honestly, we have rakes over in Eastern Washington, too. There's been a lot of sightings over in the cave systems there.
Yeah, they like caves. That seems to be the. I mean, I'm raising. I don't hear you two in the damn headphones. So we're going to start.
They do have the skinny, pale, weird things seen in the woods around here, but they're not rakes. They're tweakers.
Yeah, we got those here, but
Twiggers.
yeah, twiggers.
So
Tweakers.
I want to start this out
Yeah.
a little bit. If someone could explain what is MJ-12 officially from a government point of view, and what was the common belief of what it was.
So, and that's what's cool. You know, Barry and I were actually talking about this, yesterday?
Yeah, we were. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and I would have to agree. So, this deep state that everyone talks about, this secret government, think of them as MJ-12.
So, a continuation of Illuminati.
Exactly.
Okay, but
In a way.
but
Yes.
from what I researched with MJ12, they were pretty much UFO and what's the threat with UFOs. Did they ever go into politics?
Well, most of them were already in politics. And then, George Bush Sr. Being the head of...
Vannevar Bush.
Vannevar, I mean, the whole family, and then George Bush came in as president. He was involved in other things before that. Mm-hmm. So, and he was the director of the CIA,
right,
all that kind of stuff. And see what happens to MJ12, whatever names that you want to call the darn thing, because it's changed names in so many different ways. Now it could be known as PI-40. It's very hard to find out some of the things, part of the aviary, part of the CIA, part of NSA. It's diversified and gone through all of these people, so it's now major. What it does is it protects the truth. It also knows all the truth. It has been involved in every NASA project with all of these space shuttles and some of the military payloads that it came up to that no one knows it's ever been around.
And we'll get more into that later on in the show. But I think I like the depiction of MJ12 in the TV show Blue Book, because they showed them. And I also, if you look at X-Files, the big secret council that met the cigarette, the cancer man that went to, I see them as kind of the MJ12.
Yep.
But that was more of a global scale. The MJ12 we read about now, from back in the 40s, was all United States. They didn't. None of those names I've got, the 12 people in the MJ12 Council, were global, that I could tell.
Right, I've got a...
And I could see a lot of people saying, it's the Illuminati and they're all evil and it's the dark state. I think originally it was just a bunch of guys in the government who got together saying, what is going on with this UFO thing? Let's figure this out, and when we figure it out, we'll do something with it. That was in the very beginning. It may have warped into something else, completely evil, if you want to think that. But I think originally, I don't think they were trying to overthrow the United States or anything. I think they just wanted to find out what UFOs were all about.
So
keep it secret.
They were part of the United States government.
Yeah, so maybe it was the original think tank.
Maybe you should start off with the list of the 12 people that we have there. You mentioned Vannevar Bush already.
I want to start from the beginning, though, because I have a timeline here I want to get to, and then we'll actually delve into MJ12 specifically. But my question is, do you think they control the Bilderbergs?
No.
Or do you think Bilderbergs is a completely separate...
I think they each have
their space. They're a whole different thing.
I think that they are all part of the same underbelly because of, you're going to have, as you get into the deep state, you have different aspects of every operation. So you're going to have different people doing different things. Bilderberg handles the banking side of it more than I think anything else.
Okay.
And I think that, the NSA, the CIA, all of those are in there. Harry Truman did it by a presidential order in 1947 when he did Operation...
Truman, in fact, I've got the order in front of me. But Truman actually directed the MJ-12 to be formed.
Right. And he was, when it was created, it was to take charge of all the technical, sociological, and other aspects of crashed UFOs, small alien occupants, dead or alive, and recovery in later years of operations involving into and became known as Magi, and
Right.
as it keeps going. But it is a very interesting part of our history and very dark, and that's why we don't know what is exactly out there. These guys have protected it for many years. I think it's interesting that most of all of them became members of the Jason Society. All the originals were all Jason Societies, and there you go with all the control with Illuminati, with the Masons, with Skull and Bones. All of these things are all attached, and it's pretty crazy. This is when you start running under this, and the Jason Society is basically right now is a truth control group, and what they know. Good gosh, I've seen reports of them on reptilian humanoids living underground bases, alien hubs, all of the stuff from that. So it's quite as an advisory group. It's even gone into the aviary. It's gone into AATIP and all that other stuff. The government's been involved with this all along. When they split it up and even brought Bigelow into it. I mean, it's all attached. It's really a strange thing when you look at it in the way that we did our research and put it all together. It's actually kind of scary, isn't it? I mean, anybody notice that it just keeps on opening up more doors?
It was hard to get a good timeline. It took a while to actually get a solid timeline. When you're talking the Condon Report, the Robertson Panel, all these little pieces that all, because you got the CIA doing their thing, you got the FBI doing their thing, you've got MJ-12, you've got, I wasn't even aware the Army actually had, where did I have it? Let me see if I can find it. But the Army actually had the Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit back in the 40s. And that was an Army unit that their whole sole purpose was to go to UFO crash sites. Which, in all reality, I'm sure wasn't. They went to helicopter crashes, military plane crashes, things of that nature. But they also were the unit that responded to UFO crash sites.
Well,
Wasn't that part of the Foreign Technology Division?
Yeah.
They were actually.
I believe that was.
They were part of the Science and Technology Division within Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
The Foreign Technology Division, in other words, anything, like you said, anything that crashed, maybe a Russian jet or a Russian satellite.
Right.
So anything foreign, and UFOs kind of fell under the foreign thing.
Well, you got to remember back in in 2000, and I think it was 2003, when the Disclosure Project started off. Greer's first attempt at that at the New York Press Club, and remember he just passed about a month ago, Sergeant Clifford Stone, and he's the one that stands up and does all that, and that's the group that he was affiliated with. That's what he did. He did crash retrievals.
Mm-hmm. So I want to back us up. I want to back us up, though, to 1939. Something happened.
Well, now we're going back.
Oh, something happened in 1939. I have yet to actually put my finger on. As far as, in one of the reports I was reading, it all really stems. Now, we know UFO has been, sighted since the beginning of human civilization. We've seen it in Egyptian records. We've seen it. But when it comes to the United States interests, it really seems to pinpoint to 1939. I don't know what specific event they're talking about, but something flagged in their reports that happened in 1939. It was an unspecified threat, and it raised red flags.
One of the things you may look at is in Evansville, Indiana, and all that area over there where they had that supposed crash in 40. I've seen different dates on it. I've seen 39, 40, 41. And that
well, in 1939, you had the H.G. Wells broadcast of War of the World.
Exactly. That is exactly also right.
Okay.
Yeah, you had that also. And that's what half the reports were based on, because back then, that's how they gauged everyone of what would happen if there would have been an alien attack.
Right.
And that is, even though it was crazy, and it may happen to this day. I don't know. I mean, we may have people standing on like they did for Mars Attack or Independence Day, jumping and celebrating, and we might have other people committing suicide.
You're going to have two types of people, I think. I think you're going to have Independence Day was a perfect example. You're going to have the ones on top of the building going, "Welcome, oh yeah, bring Elvis back," blah, blah, blah. And you got the other ones like us in the mountains going, "Oh, hell no, lock and load." And
that's it.
If they're not in the mountains like we are already, they're the ones getting in their motorhome, hauling ass across the desert.
Yep.
Also,
I just want to know.
In 1939, you can't blame the people for being paranoid here in the United States, because at the time, war was raging in Europe.
Right.
And in Asia.
True.
And we were kind of sitting in the middle just waiting for somebody to attack. And so everybody's nerves were pretty frazzled at the time.
There was a mass sighting in 1939 at the World Fair in New York, too. There was a whole crap ton of people that saw, how did they describe that? An odd lighted atmospheric cloud-like shape suddenly appeared and hovered overhead of the crowd for about 20 minutes. It darted off straight up and disappeared into the cloudless night.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it could just be that, there were so many sightings, there was so much UFO awareness that the government had to take interest. Because the next event was in 1941 with the UFO crash in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, which was also mentioned in these documents that had a crash craft along with bodies.
Yeah.
In 1942.
Well, what?
Go ahead.
Before you leave 1941, or I guess it was early 42, was the Battle of Los Angeles.
That's my next one on my list. Because in 1942, you've got the Battle of L.A., in which unknown craft were fired on by Army anti-aircraft guns, 1,433 rounds fired. Now, what a lot of people don't hear about was the same year there was a recovered spacecraft in the San Bernardino Mountains. Have you heard about that one, Barry?
I have not, no.
Nope.
Oh, well, is that the one that the two people actually found the parts? They saw it and they took a piece of it? I can't remember that. I remember, I think Lyndon Moten Howe did a story on that. I'm not too sure.
Okay. So, I mean, it's all a build-up, and so in 1942 is when certain elements of the government started looking at UFOs, and they went back as far back as 1897, and started piecing all these different UFO reports and saying, yeah, okay, we've got a problem, guys. And then, of course, 1947 was the firestorm, because, let's see, that's when the Army actually had their interplanetary phenomenon unit designed to respond to crash saucers for retrievals. And so I have a question with that. Do you think that specific unit, if it exists today, which I'm pretty sure there's elements of it that do, could be a part of my labs today?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I definitely believe in that. And he goes, that goes so deep. We have so many on my lab. So, we are at the crust when you're looking at the MJ-12 and the beginning of all this stuff. You're looking at the whole ordeal of aliens and what the truth is and the whole 9 yards, all the way to everything, because it's all related. I mean, if you really start digging down and doing your research into how all these come together, it's so scary that it's almost like, well, here we go,
Right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, because most of the people who have laughed and who have called, said all kinds of different things about abductees and everything else, if they would see how deep this all goes, and most people just, even in the UFO fields, hear of MJ-12 as, 12 guys formed by Truman, and then it goes into the, Eisenhower takes it over from there. It goes all the way through with the presidencies, with Bush and so forth like that. And some of the things that these folks were involved in, holy smokes, I mean, it's crazy.
So picking apart 1947, you start with June of 47 with Kenneth Arnold, and the term flying saucer was created when he saw the nine discs that were flying between Mount Rainier, going 600 miles an hour, I think it was.
Yes,
But
estimated to be.
right before that, I think 3, maybe 4 days before that, there was the Maury Island incident.
No, Maury Island was 3 days after, and that's the next one on my list.
I thought that was before.
Maury Island happened, if I remember right, towards the end of June.
June 21st, 1947.
Yep.
And the Kenneth Arnold was June 24th, 1947.
Yep. You got Kenneth Arnold, you've got the Maury Island incident, which is with Harold Dahl, who saw, I think it was 4 or 5 craft that dumped sludge into Maury Island, the Puget Sound.
Yeah.
Killing his dog, injuring his son. That was
That's
the first.
also your first MIB.
That was the first Men in Black incident that came up. Also had an Air Force plane crash later on that actually had sludge in it. Now, honestly, playing the skeptic, was that a coincidence? It could have been, but this is all part of the build-up towards MJ-12, Project Sign, Project Grudge, and Blue Book. And then, of course, we all know about Roswell in July of 1947. Now, what a lot of people don't hear about involving Roswell, which has actually popped up in these classified documents, is the fact that there was a rash of military, police, and security force suicides that happened in that time period due to the duties they were doing. Also, 3 technicians at Sandia died of contamination, with a 4th that was in an unknown condition. These are key points that are brought up in these classified documents, if you go download and read them, that don't get discussed in the bigger picture of it. Mm-hmm. So, because of Roswell, I'm looking here. There's a directive to Lieutenant General Twining. And this is from Truman. And it says, you will proceed to the White Sands Proving Ground Command Center without delay for the purpose of making an appraisal of the reported unidentified objects being kept there. Part of your mission there will deal with military, political, and psychological situations, current and projected. In the course of your survey, you will maintain liaison with the military officials in the area. In making your appraisal, it is desired that you, this is hard to read because that you proceed with detachment from any opinions or feelings expressed by personnel involved which do not conform to sound reasoning with regard to the possible outcome. In presenting the findings of your mission, you should endeavor to state or blah 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 as possible your estimate of the character, extent, and probable consequences in the event that assistance is not given. When your mission in New Mexico is completed, you will proceed on a brief trip to the Sandia, New Mexico facility to make an appraisal of the situation there. Also of the reaction by the Los Alamos people involved. Before going to White Sands, you will communicate with General Eisenhower to ascertain whether he desires you to proceed via Kirtland Air Force Base. You will take with you such experts, technicians, assistants, and scientists as you deem necessary to the effectiveness of your mission. So, I mean, this is straight from Truman to Twining. So, Twining was the Air Force general at the time. If I remember right, also a part of, also on MJ-12. So you see a lot of the same names looking through all these different documents that were all intertwined.
Right.
Both with Robertson. Well, Robertson Panel, CIA's got their own agenda and their own mission anyway. Also, 9 July 1947 is another memo that was recommended a council be formed to oversee the UFO situation. And it wasn't until 24 September of 1947 that Truman actually indicated James Forrestal as the new Secretary of Defense to take over MJ-12. But that was short-lived. Well, you know what's interesting, Joe, is the fact that we actually have in our own, in these documents, where they actually said it's really too bad what happened to Secretary Forrestal, but it was necessary and where is it? they admitted to killing him.
It's just too bad we had to throw him out of a window.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they didn't say how they did it, obviously, but they said what happened to Secretary Forrestal was actually necessary and regrettable.
Hey, they started with just making them, commit suicide themselves. Then they moved on to throwing them out the windows. And then later on, it's everybody's dying of a heart attack. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, well, the LSD and the didn't work right. He didn't jump out the window like they thought he was going to do it, so they had to help him.
I think LSD was their first attempt at a nebulizer. Like, just here, forget about everything that you saw. Take this drug, and it didn't work.
They should have used tequila.
Right?
I wish somebody would be able to come up with. I'd love to be able to see his book that he was working on that they were so frightened about. When you look back at that period of time, through all of the heavy conspiracy theories and everything else from MJ-12 all the way through the Kennedy assassinations and all that other stuff, look at all the people who books or something that they were writing, from Marilyn Monroe to to Forrestal, all of it is, even the Tesla papers, all those things, right. All just kind of, we're talking the same years that we're talking right now, all that stuff just kind of goes, whoops, where'd that go?
Right.
And we just all kind of went, well, isn't that kind of strange? And we left it all at that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll get to Grudge and Blue Book and Sign here to probably the second hour. Because MJ-12 started in 47. We know that. So Operation Majestic 12 is a top secret research and development intelligence operation responsible directly and only to the President of the United States, who at that time was Truman. I'm clarifying that because I can't remember when did Eisenhower.
It was.
It was true.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Eisenhower came in 53.
Okay. So operations of the project are carried out under control of the Magic 12 group, which was established by a special classified executive order by President Truman on 24 September 1947, upon recommendation by Dr. Vannevar Bush and Secretary James Forrestal. So the members were Admiral Roscoe H. Hillenkoetter, Dr. Vannevar Bush, Secretary James V. Forrestal, which was short-lived, General Nathan F. Twining, General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, Dr. Detlev Bronk, Dr. Jerome Hunsaker, Mr. Sidney W. Sowers, Mr. Gordon Gray, Dr. Donald Menzel. Now, Menzel, didn't he come out with a UFO book later on?
I don't know.
Not that
Sounds familiar.
I know of.
Because there's a lot of conflict between these members over whether the fact that UFOs were actually Russian craft, which was actually ruled out by a lot of them, or whether it was off-world, whether it was extraterrestrial. To the extent that, and I think it was Twining, now that don't sound right, there was a captain of the Air Force that didn't like the way that Grudge or Sign were going, that he wanted it taken more serious, and then they started Blue Book. Which I find...
Ruppelt.
Yeah, Ruppelt.
Ruppelt, yes. Mm-hmm.
So then we
he wrote several UFO books.
Yeah, Ruppelt.
He also died of a heart attack. Weird.
Uh-huh. So the last two is General Robert M. Montague and Dr. Lloyd V. Berkner. So basically you have maybe a couple politicians, but the rest of them are scientists and military. Mm-hmm. So the death of Secretary Forrestal on 22 May of 1949 created a vacancy which remained unfulfilled until 1 August 1950, upon which date General Walter B. Smith was designated as permanent replacement. Now, I'm not familiar with Smith. Has anyone looked up General Walter Smith?
You can't find much information.
Did you say Beetle Smith?
No, Walter. General Walter B. Smith.
Yeah, so when I was looking...
I know there was a General Beetle Smith. Might have been Walter that was a World War II guy.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, because he died in 1961. I mean, he wasn't around for much of this happenings. I mean,
he probably died of a heart attack.
Yeah, actually.
Obviously.
Or he learned how to fly.
That's the one drug that they got down good. The one that they can inject people, they go, up, heart attack.
All right.
PBR, so the Beetle Smith.
Yep, Beetle Smith.
So, the document I'm actually reading from is the first MJ-12 assessment. And I'm not going to read the first part because it actually goes into what we already know. On 24 June 1947, a civilian pilot flying over the Cascade Mountains in the state of Washington observed 9 flying disc-shaped aircraft traveling in formation at a high rate of speed. Although this was not the first known sighting of such objects, it was the first to gain widespread attention in the public media. That's what they hated. They hated the public media aspect. If he didn't get the media they didn't want, they ignored it. Hundreds of reports of sightings of similar objects followed. Many of these came from highly credible military and civilian sources. These reports resulted in independent efforts by several different elements of the military to ascertain the nature and purpose of these objects in the interest of national defense. A number of witnesses were interviewed, and there were several unsuccessful attempts to utilize aircraft in efforts to pursue reported distance in flight. And I believe, was it Mantell?
Mantell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mantell will be one of those.
1948 in Kentucky,
Yep.
right?
Yep. January 9th.
Barry's been to that
Fort
part.
Knox,
I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So public reaction bordered on near hysteria at times. And that's where the Robertson Panel actually came in, because the Robertson Panel didn't want UFOs being focused on because of the hysteria it caused.
Right. Well, you got in 1948 though. You also have the green fireballs that were reported from like almost every state in the U.S. flying over top of military bases. There were hundreds and hundreds of reportings of green fireballs over top of military bases of all different kinds.
Right. So in spite of these efforts, little of substance was learned about the objects until a local rancher reported that one had crashed in a remote region of New Mexico. Well, we all know that as Roswell. On 7 July 1947, a secret operation was begun to assure recovery of the wreckage of this object for scientific study. During the course of this operation, aerial reconnaissance discovered that 4 small, human-like beings had apparently ejected from the craft at some point before it exploded. These had fallen to Earth about 2 miles east of the wreckage. All 4 were dead and badly decomposed due to action by predators and exposure to the elements during the approximately 1-week time period which had elapsed before their discovery. A special scientific team took charge of removing these bodies for study. Now, I don't have attachment C, so I don't know what it says. The wreckage of the craft was also recovered to several different locations. Civilian and military witnesses in the area were debriefed, and news reporters were given an effective cover story that the object had been a misguided weather balloon.
You know, you think that they would come up with some better stuff. It seems like everything is a misguided weather balloon. Somebody saw Venus.
Well, what was even more stupid is when the Air Force recanted their story in the 90s and came back and said, well, it was actually a dummy. Well, they didn't have that particular dummy in the 1940s,
Okay,
so
yeah,
really?
So now what they say, the big cover-up now, is that it was a weather balloon that somehow had 2 dummies that were tied to it.
Yeah, Project Mogul.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, which is common sense should tell you the more lies you tell, they do get discovered. And the more lies you tell, the less credible you become. And, well, they wonder where conspiracy theories come from. Huh.
Well, you know, everybody...
The thing about Roswell is you have the one crash that everybody knows about right outside of Roswell. But there was another crash west of there, about 80 miles, I believe. And that one, they said that they had living occupants. So I think it might have been a midair collision or something.
Yeah,
they had 2 crashes that same day.
They hit
no one
each
knows
other,
about the other
supposedly.
one.
That was in Aztec, New Mexico, and yeah, they allegedly retrieved a grounded UFO with occupants in it.
Yep.
Right.
Still living.
But what kills me even more is a lot of and that's what's sad about the UFO field in general, is everyone focuses their attention on Roswell, when Maury Island is the Roswell of Washington State. It really is.
True.
And,
yes.
You know, and it happened before Roswell. You've got other craft, you know, the Kecksburg case, but none of them, and I don't get it, but everyone focuses on Roswell. Well, you've got a lot of different crashes that produced the same as, if not more, in some cases, evidence or material.
Oh, and don't even get me started on the ones that are international.
Right, well, yeah.
If you
Right,
have
oh, yeah.
any
Absolutely.
other
You're getting
country
the
in
international
there,
stuff,
you're
and
looking
you're
at way more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see, the
Wasn't
main thing
there
about
one down
Roswell,
in Texas, supposedly late 1800s?
Aurora, Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1890s,
They actually
yeah.
buried the alien
They buried the body.
And the
body, and they put some of the parts of the thing down into a well, and this guy came back with incredible, unknown arthritis. I mean, his joints and everything were so swollen from drinking the water.
The well became radioactive.
But you know what's interesting about that case too, though, is the people didn't freak out. There was no mass hysteria or no mass panic.
They weren't told
They embraced
to
it.
yet.
Huh?
They were not told to freak out yet.
Yeah, it was the 1800s. We didn't even have anything flying.
We didn't
the Wright
have anything
brothers
in the
hadn't
air.
even.
No.
The Wright brothers hadn't even been up in the air. We had balloons during the Civil War to be able to look at battlefields and so forth like that, hot air balloons.
Right.
But we didn't have anything in the air other than a hot air balloon. And, they just looked at it, and there's this crash, and here's this dead being, and I'm sure not everyone. Look at the population in Aurora, Texas back then. I mean, golly, Texas wasn't just running over with people, because most of the people were still living in the East Coast. I mean, east of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
All that stuff moved. We moved out, and even today, look at the vast territories and the population. As you get up into Montana, all these other areas, there's, the best thing you can ever look at is the picture of when all the lights are on in the world from the IS station, and look at some of those photos, and you'll see, wow, there ain't too many things out there because it's awful dark.
Right.
Even today, so you can imagine what it was like then.
All right. So next up, we have a covert analytical effort organized by General Twining and Dr. Bush, acting on the direct orders of the president, resulted in a preliminary consensus, 19 September 1947, that the disk was most likely a short-range reconnaissance craft. This conclusion was based for the most part on the craft's size and the apparent lack of any identifiable provisioning. A similar analysis of the 4 dead occupants was arranged by Dr. Bronk. It was the tentative conclusion of this group, 30 November of 1947, that although these creatures are human-like in appearance, the biological and evolutionary processes responsible for their development has apparently been quite different from those observed or postulated in Homo sapiens. They just said they're alien. Huh.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine that. Dr. Bronk's team has suggested the term extraterrestrial biological entities, or EBEs. I think of Transformers, but yeah.
EBEs. There's a big one.
He adopted as the standard term of reference for these creatures until such time as a more definitive designation can be agreed upon. Since it is
they had to call them something. They couldn't call them fracking aliens.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
Since it is virtually certain that these craft do not originate in any country on Earth, considerable speculation has centered around what their point of origins might be and how they get here. Mars was and remains a possibility. Imagine that. Where are we today? Although some scientists, most notably Dr. Menzel, consider it more likely that we are dealing with beings from another solar system entirely. Numerous examples of what appear to be a form of writing were found in the wreckage. Efforts to decipher these have remained largely unsuccessful. Equally unsuccessful have been efforts to determine the method of propulsion or the nature of or method of transmission or the power source involved. Research along these lines has been complicated by the complete absence of identifiable wings, propellers, jets, or other conventional methods of propulsion and guidance, as well as a total lack of metallic wiring, vacuum tubes, or similar recognizable electronic components. It is assumed that the propulsion unit was completely destroyed by the explosion which caused the crash. A need for as much additional information as possible about these craft, their performance, characteristics, and their purpose led to the undertaking known as U.S. Air Force Project Sign in December of 1947.
Project Sign.
Which is interesting because, they must have started Sign towards the end of 47 because I've got it at January of 48.
Yeah, Sign was Sign was the first one before Grudge. And,
right. All right.
Yeah. And Ruppelt, the gentleman you mentioned there, had a lot to do with that also.
Yeah, he did.
And also Grudge.
Here we go. On 6 December of 1950, a second object, probably of similar origin, impacted the Earth at high speed in the El Indio Guerrera area of the Texas-Mexican border after following a long trajectory through the atmosphere. By the time a search team arrived, what remained of the object had been almost totally incinerated. Such material as could be recovered was transported to the AEC facility at Sandia, New Mexico, for study. Mm-hmm. So that actually came from the very first annual report of MJ12. And then we know, along with them, because I kind of see MJ12 as probably the oversight council of the other Air Force projects that were started. Would you agree?
I would agree.
And let's see, so Project Sign started, according to that document, in 1947, and ended in 1949. It was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. So this project was seen as a disappointment as it never took UFO reports directly. And you know what? The newspapers actually got more reports than the actual project did.
Mm-hmm. But you know, in Sign, though, this was the first appearance of J. Allen Hynek.
Of what? J. Allen Hynek.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was the first appearance of him on the scene anywhere as far as that goes.
You know what I find funny? So J. Allen Hynek was a professor in, what was it, New Mexico?
He was an astronomer. Yeah.
He was actually in Ohio. He was
Ohio,
University. Yeah. Ohio State. Mm-hmm.
And he was a skeptic. He didn't believe in extraterrestrials or UFOs. He was there, and that's really why they hired him, was to debunk all these UFO reports. Which, the more evidence he saw, the more of a believer he became.
Mm-hmm.
So for our listeners, if you haven't, and I liked the first season, I haven't even watched the second season of Blue Book. I was so disgusted with the first season that I couldn't even, but I am going to actually stoop to the position of watching the second season. Just out of curiosity, because Maury Allen is supposed to be in the second season of it. But I think, and I watched it all with a grain of salt anyway, but it wasn't what I expected. But what really pissed me off and threw me for a loop was the whole Betty and Barney Hill episode.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, that was a bunch of bullshit. That's all that was.
That was, if you want to get a factual or a TV show based on fact, get it based on fact. Betty and Barney Hill were a mixed racial couple.
That's one of the things that made them more credible.
Absolutely. And, they got that wrong. I don't ever recall in that entire case him complaining about having an implant in his neck that she tried to cut out with a scalpel.
No, that was all
TV bullshit. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And he never took over the military base with an armed thing.
No,
hostages.
No, not at all.
That's when the show kind of lost it for me. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah, that was where it lost it for me, for damn sure. I like the Flatwoods monster episode. That honestly reminded me of a response Concrete would have. All the people grab their guns and keep the government out.
Shoot it!
That was Concrete.
Oh, yeah.
No, not the Flatwoods monster. The government. When the government shows up and they all have guns out, that was our community. That's what our community would do. Just to be blatant. Let's see. So yeah, the newspapers actually got more reports than Project Sign did. Project Sign really didn't take it serious. No. So they dropped Sign, but all they really did was change the name to Grudge. April 49 started Project Grudge. It was in December of 49, Donald Kehoe wrote his article on UFOs and stated that the government knew about them, but wasn't doing anything about it, and in fact was keeping it a secret.
Okay, but you know all Project Grudge
Donald
was...
Kehoe was a great man.
Yep, he was. He was the first one that actually exposed the government for what, you know, for the UFO side of it. So the Air Force had to respond to that because he actually went public with it. And so they kind of opened it up a little bit more. But, again, it wasn't what...
And that's what I said, all Project Grudge was. The entire premise of Project Grudge
Well, the
was
name says...
disinformation.
The name
was
says
just
it all.
Straight up disinformation. That's all it was.
They treated it like
Yes.
it was a grudge. Like, so, I mean, you know, you're going to name a project... Yeah.
Well, you know, and Kayla said it right. What it was is that, and this is the whole thing about MJ12, and as we get into this later in the later years and everything else, all these groups that are associated with it and everything else, they were for everything that they do is for disinformation and to hide the truth. That's
Right.
all that it is. You know, that, and Grudge was the start of all that. And then Blue Book did the same thing. It was, even though it was the Air Force's attempt to try to look into it, is what they told the American public. But they also, from the reports and what Heineck and some of those things said, swamp gas, all the other stuff came through, tried to poo-poo it as much as they could.
Well, the thing with Blue Book, they were pretty much ordered that if it was possibly a bird, change it to say it was a bird.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you know that the biggest freaking problem that Blue Book had is Heineck.
Yes.
Because he wasn't about that. He wanted to prove one way or the
Yep.
other. He was of scientific mind, and he sat there and went, well, just because it walks like a duck and talks like a duck doesn't necessarily mean it is. And he continued trying to figure out what actually was happening, even though he's out there giving him misinformation.
They didn't want that. They
Yeah.
wanted him to say it was a bird.
Exactly. And
Right.
I mean, if you're being told by the government, you will say this, you have a family at home, you're going to say this.
Yeah.
But in his spare time, he did everything he could to disprove what they were saying.
Yep. And they hired him with the pretext that he was a skeptic.
Mm-hmm. Yes. They hired him going in figuring, there we go, we got a scientist,
Yep.
we got somebody that's in the field, and we got somebody that knows stuff about astrology, and we are going to have him say that these things don't exist because they will believe him. Well, they screwed up on that one.
Yeah. And we gained an ally on the UFO side.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Blue Book, I don't think it was necessarily them just trying to put everything down. I think at one point they said, you know what, we need information from the public about these things. You know, more eyes, more information. And they'd get people to call them up and tell them about something. Then they'd do the public thing and say, oh, well, it was a bird or it was a weather balloon or whatever. But they wanted the information from the public.
Oh,
they were trying to gather. They didn't have everybody on the internet saying everything that they've seen like they do now.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And that's
They
why
wanted to get as many reports as possible so that they could study it. They're not going to tell us what they find out.
Nope.
That's why they put so many more civilians on that one, is because you are way more likely to open up to a civilian than you are somebody that's coming from the army, that's coming from the government, that's saying, hey, tell me your story. And you're scared. You're not going to tell them anything. For the last, 100 years, you've been told, no,
Yeah.
they don't exist. But if somebody comes into your house and they're like just your average everyday person, you're going to open up more to them.
Now, we've got about 2 minutes left of the first hour. You're going to get the skeptics saying, well, these classified documents that we're looking at, they're all hoaxed. They're all fake. And I got to tell you, And even in the words of another documentary that I watched about these very documents, if they're fake, they're very elaborate fakes.
Someone went to a lot of effort.
Oh, absolutely. And that's not...
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible, but I've got to say, just looking at the documents, 'cause I printed a lot of them out so I could read them easier. But in Third Army, working for General Franks, we had to read classified documents. Every time we were on 24-hour duty, we had to actually read books of classified material to create his books, essentially, for his meetings every day. So I've seen classified documents, and they're set up in the exact same way. And I was talking to Barry about, I've never heard of secret classification, and I only saw that in one document where it was classified secret. But
that's because all the Teslas disappeared.
Well, I know top secret. My own classification was only secret, and that's anyone that's got a clean background can get a secret clearance. We had to have secret clearances basically as combat medics to work around people's, basically because of HIPAA. So anybody can get a secret clearance. Top secret, now you're talking, they actually go to your mom's neighbors and your mom's friends, ask what kind of drugs they took when you were a kid. They do all kinds of crazy. It takes a year to get a top secret clearance. But when you're looking at these documents, you're talking Magi only, Magi eyes only, things of that nature. They're a whole different level of a classification that probably only the president himself gave. But doesn't it make you wonder? So when you're looking at Reagan and when you're looking at Carter, when you're looking at Obama even, they don't seem to get the same information that, say, Truman and Eisenhower did. Or do they?
No.
Yeah, well, you see from what I can tell, some of the things that, you see all the things, well, they sure didn't tell me when Clinton said this, and you see this other stuff. All the presidents are briefed on the MJ-12 documents. And, you mentioned the top secret, the Magi, M-A-J-I, has always been assigned above top secret classifications and above, the top secret classification, and it's known as, like you said, the magic.
I'm going to argue with you on that one because Truman himself created MJ-12.
Nah. He gave it a name, he gave it government money, but he didn't create it.
But didn't he?
Not if we're going off of the fact that if you do go off of the fact that you might think that this is just a continuation of the underbelly of everything, then he didn't create it.
No, it goes hundreds of years before that.
He just
on
gave it a
global
classification so that he could give government funding for a specific sector of it.
But I guess my argument would be if Truman created MJ-12 or gave it a name, and it followed up with Eisenhower, couldn't it be possible that they decided that their level was as high as it could go, basically, and the following presidents didn't get that information?
I think
because it was need to know.
I think as soon as the Eisenhower...
There are many classification levels above what even the president...
Right, even above the president. And this is a, MJ-12 became, in the later years, the operation became Magi, and which is the majority agency of joint intelligence.
Oh, hold up. It's time for break. We will continue this. We'll come back from break.
are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
Welcome back to S4 with your host, Eric Cooper.
For the show, and welcome back to S4 as we are talking. Oh God, we're digging. We're way down the rabbit hole tonight. So we're talking magi. So Cole, you wanted to bring up the presidents.
Okay. So it was asked whether the president. You had asked whether the presidents receive all the same information.
Yeah.
I think the issue with that is, you think of the information that Truman would have received when he first became president, compared to what they would have to receive now if they received all the continued information.
Right.
There isn't enough time in the first 100 days. They wouldn't be done reading yet.
No.
That's the issue.
I agree.
I don't think they're briefed on it unless it pertains to something they have to handle. I think we're at that point.
Yeah, I disagree. I think there are things that they are definitely, the top-notch things they are definitely briefed on because of the fact that this gets into the point of aliens are real. They are living here, and they are doing things, and they are doing this. And, I can
agree with them being briefed to the point of just being told they're real. But everything's handled. If you want to see anything, you can ask for it. But that's all you really need to know for now.
But do you think their classification was dropped?
I don't.
The president's classification.
Oh,
So-
I think that just classification.
I don't
that
think his
there's
was
still in
dropped so much as they came up with classifications above his.
I have
There's
no
a bunch of
doubt,
them above
Yeah.
his.
but I have no doubt that Truman, if he wanted to go to, say, Area 51 or some of these other spots, that Truman could have gone.
Well, that
But-
was back when Truman and Eisenhower were in charge, but up now, no.
That was also back when we didn't have cameras in their faces 24/7.
Right. But no, that's
They
my
could
point.
move.
Do you think Obama or Trump or Biden, if they wanted to go to Area 51 today, would be allowed to go?
No.
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 I mean,
I think,
so their
honestly,
classification's
well,
been dropped.
yes.
That's what I,
think
mean
they
by that.
no, but I think they have the classification for it. But I think due to their own security breaches, there's too much eye on them for them. Area 51, yeah, I think if they wanted to go there, they could.
Because I don't think there's any.
Because there's an actual base there that's above ground, right?
Well,
Isn't there-
Nellis. Nellis is
Yeah.
Area 51.
All they'd have to do is visit Nellis Air Base and view it as they're visiting all the bases.
Okay, what
there.
about S4? What if they wanted to go to S4?
They can come here. No, but seriously, on that one, I honestly think if they wanted to go to S4, well, do you honestly think there isn't an underground entrance from Nellis?
Possibly. I'm sure. I'm sure some of the hangars there go underground.
So we would never know.
No.
I'm sure if Air Force One started flying across country and the president said, land over there at that base, my orders, they would land. I don't think they would shoot him down.
No.
No, absolutely
No,
not.
not a chance.
I think he has
Maybe
the
a cover
clearance to go
story.
to pretty much anywhere there. I think there are some things he doesn't have the clearance to activate.
There you go.
But to know about him, hell yeah. Just not activate.
And so I think again about Independence Day, where they're on Air Force One, and you know I can't remember the actor's name, but he says, you know, well, y'all had aliens back in the 1940s, and the president says, that's just tabloid material. Until the other panel, the other government guy says, well, actually, that's not absolutely accurate. It makes you wonder if that would happen today with the presidents we've got.
I think it's going on. When I mentioned to you what Magi is now, or
Right.
what the Majestic 12 came into, and you look at the, Magi is a abbreviation of the majority agencies of joint intelligence. Okay. So that means that all the intelligent areas are over it. It is,
It's the intelligence of the Air Force, the intelligence of the Army, the CIA, and, well, like you said earlier in the show, the NSA.
It goes above that. Magi is the most secret of all intelligent groups and outranks all intelligence agencies, including the NSA and the CIA.
Okay.
So, Magi is responsible directly and only to the President of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Joe, do you think the Space Force has its own intelligence agency now?
I believe that the Space Force is part of that hidden thing that people want to think that, as we get into this later and take it to where it can go, you're going to see the stuff that is only nightmares and weird things that is landed around the conspiracy theories, but is so true because it has been hidden. When you spend a lot of time looking at this stuff and you in the UFO field and everything else, and you start digging around, there's so much to dig for and so much to look for,
It gets overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and that's why that's why so many people stay in Roswell. So many people stay here. They look at Keckenberg. They look at certain cases. They look at all the other stuff. But if you're chasing down the nuts and bolts and you really want to know what's going on, you're going to go after MJ12 and you're going to go after Magic or Magi. And, which is the project that controls all, Magi is the project that controls all responsibilities in every aspect and interface of the alien life forms, including security, intelligence, disinformation, and prevents public and foreign disclosure of alien presence.
So, do you think we have any aliens that are actually all Magi?
Yes.
Yeah. And Magi is still ongoing in Washington, D.C. today. And like I said, it is Magi controlled, and Magi is the highest security classification in the nation.
Well,
there is no
if
doubt
you
of that.
really look into Magi too, it's not just in the U.S. This is an international pull of people that is monitoring the alien threat. They aren't only monitoring it, but they are disinformation and everything else that he was talking about, not just for the U.S., but on a global scale.
So you're talking Magi is actually the X-Files version of the council that Cancer Man went to.
So if you think
exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
So if you think
exactly. If you bring in all of, starting from MJ12, and you bring in it, and you want to look at it as TV, and you want to look at the X-Files,
honestly, I think the X-Files is the show that got the closest to any version of truth.
Yeah. Well, the security classification of, there are also, Magi, the Aquarius information is big, and they named all of the, there's certain, some of the Magi or the Magic have certain titles like MJ1, all right? That's the director of Magi, and the director of the CIA is usually MJ1 and reports only to the president. Other members like MJ2, 3, and 4, etc. are kind of like different control groups. They're caused all kinds of.
They would also be broke down by the branches, wouldn't they? Like the finance branch, the executive branch, the
I think you
special
guys
projects
are all
branch.
thinking about too many people. Okay.
Well, no, and this is. I mean, there's a core, but it goes beyond that.
Yes, but
they
would send all of that aspect of it under different files to the individual
it's easier
areas that already do that.
It's easier to It's easier to classify because every branch has their own classification.
So if you look at it this way, as we have like 12 people, we'll just take the number 12. I have no idea how many there actually are, but you take 12 people. 12, okay? And
it started at 12. Now it's way up
there. The top of the shit, whatever. And then for their budgeting, for their financing, for their this, for their that, they are sending those out to places that already exist. So they are putting it under a different pretext and saying, hey, financing or treasury department, pay for this. Hey, figure this out for us. And then they're going over to the United Nations and saying, hey, we need extra money for this. But it's never what they actually need it for.
Right.
So it isn't a huge group of people. It's a small group of people.
Well, you're going to have your small core
that are controlling everything behind the scenes for this particular purpose.
Yeah, well, it's like this. I mean, you're right. What the purpose is this team is made up of people representing of selected government officials, and it goes from the U.S. intelligence personnel, highly trained scientists, business executives, foreign ambassadors, business executives, military personnel, which all swore to secrecy, and and they continue to do covert activities with the knowledge and the consent of the last 8 presidents.
See, but that's where I differ a little on that, because I don't think it's the knowledge and consent of just the last 8 presidents. I believe that this is the knowledge and consent of every prime minister, every queen, every king,
right?
Every
if it's global, if it's on a global scale, it's got to be.
So this is at the consent of all governments to one entity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's still changing to this day, because when Magi came in, and it still continued to grow, and now I told you PI-40. It's been known under so many different names, wise men. The background of it is so crazy that it's almost Looney Tunes in itself. But what do you think the activity is? The major activity of them are to conceal the existence and to adopt and cover up the names of all of the created covert compartmental subdivisions, like Project Aquarius, Cygnus, Snowbird, Garnet, and all these other ones. And it is directed by select personnel in the CIA and the National Security Agency. And in Eisenhower's day, after he does this, I mean, there is a document. He did a secret executive memorandum, NSC 5410, which was preceded by NSC 5412-1 in 1954 to establish a permanent committee known as Majority 12 to oversee and conduct covert activities concerning the alien questions and the alien problem.
And honestly, I personally believe that you'll never know who these people actually are. These are not going to be people that you go, oh, they're definitely part of that.
Right.
This could be your neighbor right next door that comes out and grabs his mail and goes, hey, and takes a lot of trips to Florida for no reason. Okay? It's these type of people.
I mean, it's true. I mean, the group was made up of, over the years, top officials, directors, business people, the Council of Foreign Relations, later the Trilateral Commission, Gordon Dean, George Bush, all of these people were involved in it. The most influential, and then they had what they called the wise men, John McCloy, Robert Lovelet, Abel Hart,
that we have with that is that everybody pays attention to these people because they know who they are. They see them. They are public faces of this. But we don't need public faces. That's not what would get the job done. What would get the job done is people nobody has a clue who are. You're nobody that lives nowhere.
Well, it's going to be the man that's standing in the shadows behind the president when he's giving a speech.
No, it's going to be the guy in the third row with the hat on waving that flag. It is going to be nobody.
I'm suspicious of Cole.
Well, it's funny that, it's, if you think about it, it's kind of significant that Majestic 12 members were from the government, but 6 of them were made up personally from the Council of Foreign Relations. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of really where you get into this, what this all means, and what we were talking when we first started the show. We mentioned this goes so deep down the rabbit hole that you are looking at the deep state, and you are looking at the things that are we deal with right now today. and it has all been planned out, and it's all been carried through. And maybe we'll get to that in the third hour, because I mean that's how weird when you dig into this and what you see into all this, And we mentioned the Jason Society, and the trilateralists, and from the Trilateral Commission, and you ever see their the name of the Trilateral Commission was actually taken from the alien flag known as the tribarial insignia, and it's the same flag. I mean it's kind of weird. And if you would look at the insignia and you see, say you go over to the Louvre, all right, and at the very bottom of the Louvre, this weird thing that you've seen in all the shows that came out with, what the heck? Gosh, can't think of the name of it for some reason. The Da Vinci Code, all the other codes. And you ever show at the end of the movie, they show it sitting on top of another pyramid.
Right.
Right? And that is the trilateral insignia of the aliens, known as the trilateral insignia of the alien flag.
Yeah.
So why do you think all of a sudden we've got Lou talking about AATIP?
Well, that's the other part of it when you bring it down. We're going to have to go into that because, to really give people the hard information regarding the UFOs and what MD-12 has done and the Air Force activity and all that other stuff, we've got to cover a lot from the 60s, and we have to go look at the project, even going into how many people have heard of Project Serpico.
Yep.
These aliens that we were projecting in the trade agreements, it shows this is dealing with the trade agreements and all the other stuff of the beings from Zeta Reticuli, and which we've dubbed the Greys.
Right.
And it's all about their abductions, all about all those things, and it continues out to it until the agenda comes up through 1972-73, when you got the Groom Lake incidents, you got Area 51. It goes through all of that, and then you get into the implant tracking devices of Magi investigators in 79. You get quite a lot of the national security thing. And as we are sending up space shuttles, what do you think it becomes? Because when Bush was in, all of it came underneath the guise of the SDI, used against all the Greys, was accepted by the Soviet Union under the SDI, and it was a joint U.S.-Soviet effort.
Right.
And that strategic defense initiative, which was Star Wars, and that was all a kind of a lie, because it wasn't to defend ourselves from it. It was to create a large laser-like weapon to protect Earth and shoot beyond the moon to keep other worrying things away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the equivalent of basically kind of what happened. Reagan came in.
I was just gonna
refused any concessions on it.
I was just about to back us up to Reagan, because Reagan's UN Council speech. If you, for any ufologists out there, Reagan's UN Council speech was an awakening.
That was great.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. He sets it on thing right now, and if you look at Serpico and you look at all Project Serpo, and you look at the briefing that Reagan had and all the stuff that they went through and the recorded sessions that were made from them, it's pretty interesting. But after all that stuff, and Reagan does this, Magi created another ultra secret project called Project Zeus, and all these projects are out there, and Project Zeus was kind of like the umbrella was created under an umbrella of Magi for the purpose and direction of management, development, and of the SDI weapon system. And it was named basically after the a mythical Greek god.
Right.
Same thing with right.
Imagine that.
Yeah, and the same thing with all the other stuff. So it is so, man. Every time that you go down this rabbit hole, it never ends because you just keep on digging until it gets to the bottom.
Well, see,
And when it does get down there, ooh.
And you can even pull that back to in November of '73. So J. Allen Hynek, the guy from Project Sign and Project Blue Book, right? He presented a statement to the United Nations General Assembly, trying to create a centralized authority on UFOs that was a worldwide authority. He had this whole big speech and everything to them saying this is not just a U.S. problem, this is a world problem, and we need to create a world authority on what to do and how to handle first contact scenarios, all of this kind of stuff.
Never mind, we already had first contact long before '73.
Yeah, but if there's a country
Right.
out there that hadn't had first contact yet,
Right.
well, how do you handle that? Who do you talk to? Who do you not talk to? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? He wanted to have a sharing of information between the world instead of just one country to itself.
Well, every country stayed compartmentalized. I mean,
Right.
You want to hear about the UK? You talk to Nick Pope. You want to hear about
No, for sure. No,
but I guess what baffles me is all these other countries actually came out and showed their UFO files, but the United States, and only until recently, now all of a sudden we're seeing a dump of 10,000 files from the Pentagon, but are they real? And why is it the United States still wants to be so secretive and what the hell?
Yeah. Do you, okay, so I got this weird little, interesting tidbit about Heineken, though. And, did you know that his son, Joel, is an Oscar-winning visual effects supervisor? And he oversaw the design and the camouflaging effects for the movie Predator.
I'm not surprised whatsoever.
I just thought that was kind of cool. I was like, weird.
And that's why, I always bring up movies, I always bring up TV shows and whatnot, because a lot of them are based on fact.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to bring up movies, you have J. Allen Hynek was in Close Encounters of a Third Kind.
Yeah, he was.
Yes, he was.
Well,
Yeah,
he helped.
was.
He was part of the information in the background as well as in the movie.
Well, he created the close contact classification system.
Yep.
I mean, that was him, and he's sitting there watching. Oh, this is a third kind.
Yep.
Come here, Steven Spielberg. Yeah.
Right, and what's really weird is that goes back to that movie is basically part of Project Serpo because of the fact that that's the alien exchange, the first alien exchange, and with Hynek being in that part of it, what does that lead to?
Yeah.
I mean that kind of tells you that, oh, okay.
Well, and I've always kind of found this a little funny too, is that so Blue Book started in '52, officially started in '52. In
Yeah.
1953, at the beginning of 1953, a joint Army, Navy, Air Force regulation number 146 was made, and it made it a crime to discuss any classified information on UFOs with any kind of unauthorized personnel.
Right.
And they made it a 2-year prisonable offense and a $10,000 fine.
Which is interesting. Why are you going to specify UFOs when, in all reality, it was always a prison sentence? And
because supposedly, and I have nothing but the whole conspiracy theory to back that portion of that up, but supposedly, when J. Allen Hynek started actually believing that this could be a thing,
right,
he started talking to his wife and kid about it. Like, hey, you know, you might do this. And then all of a sudden, this new regulation comes out that says, hey, we'll put you in prison and give you a huge fine. Shut your mouth. Okay?
Well, and honestly, I think their way around that was, you know, like J. Allen Hynek being involved in movies and giving, you know, maybe you should actually make the craft look a little more like this. Or, no, they need to fly like this. You know, that was their way of disclosing.
Of disclosing without disclosing.
Right.
Which is why he was such
Well,
a
where
big
did you
part
think that
with
they got the
Spielberg.
tunes and the hand signals that and all that? You know, that's the whole thing. But you know, one of the bad things about exactly. You know, the operation of Majestic 12 and Magi and all the other things with this is that that kind of explains why the other intelligence agencies and Project Blue Book and never received the information or ever knew about the crashed UFOs and the recovered spacecrafts or alien beings. You'd never see any of that in a Project Blue Book. All they were chasing were sightings of UFOs.
Right.
That was civilian sightings.
Civilian sightings. And it was right underneath their nose and right past an Air Force base for a long time in Hangar 18. But, you know, it's kind of different. Other agencies had said, you know, that's when all that stuff was sent directly to Project Aquarius and kept away from it because you didn't want other people of the military. That's how strange this is that the deep state kept it away from everybody else. You know, this is so much covert operation.
Right.
It's just,
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, Blue Book
it's
was
insane.
just a clearinghouse for public reports.
Yeah.
In other words, they already had their thing going with the military. They knew what was going on. But all of a sudden in the 50s, everybody's seeing UFOs and orbs and things in the sky and aliens in the woods. So they're going to collect all those reports just so they can tell people, look, we're looking into it. We're protecting you. That's what they told us. But that's all it was. It was just a clearinghouse for all the reports coming in from around the country. That wasn't the serious stuff.
No, you never even hear about the serious stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in '88, you know, what was it? The civilian UFO movement or something like that. They came about and basically was talking about eyewitness testimony and CIA agents in charge of covert operations.
Are you talking about CAUS? You talking about CAUS? Citizens Against UFO Secrecy was formed in, I believe, the 90s as well.
Right. Yeah. It was originally as a civilian UFO movement, and then it went to CAUS. And you know, so I mean, and basically, the conclusion of the ultimate secret of the Magi and the U.S. government, and this is funny because this was out at that time in '88. It was so, you know, everybody died of heart attacks and some other kind of weird things, real bad suicide attempts, you know, like Phil Snyder. Snyder. You know, it's just crazy. But, it basically, back then they were saying that the U.S. government has possessed spaceships manufactured by other worlds as well as occupants of the interstellar crafts and have since 1964 and have maintained radio control with aliens through Project Sigma.
Well, 88 was also the start of everybody talking about the hybrid systems. This is when everybody started saying, hey, man, they are implanting us. They're doing this weird
early
stuff.
90s.
They're doing this hybrid stuff. 88 is where that started popping off. That is with the beginning of...
Was that with Bud Hopkins?
The known hybrid revolution.
Yeah.
You know?
That started, I believe, with Bud Hopkins in his book Communion.
Yeah, late 87, beginning of 88.
Yeah.
Al, it's funny, and one of the biggest skeptics that we've seen around in the field and everything else, when you look at it, is like SETI's director. He's been on Larry King and said, oh, no, we don't have anything like that or anything else. But the Sigma Project, and that's what it is. I mean, it's, communication with grays or other aliens.
Right.
And therefore, NASA, that's why NASA's basically sponsored the SETI program. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And another, just a basic other form, and it's basically the Sigma, and you look at all the other type of things that happen to go with it. It is so deep and so, Magi agreed to, conceal knowledge of their complete presence of the Greys,
It's kind of hard to hide their presence when they're actually showing themselves to abductees and
that's what
witnesses.
Now there's the rub, That's where they were supposed to provide that list of persons abducted to the NSA,
right,
for later government follow-up. And I think some of those have gone through and released for medical assistance and psychological adjustment. So that gets into the MyLab area. That gets into the other thing. That's why we're all nuts or kooky, because that's the social conditioning and the other things about it. The test centers, I mean, in 72, 73 is when, Groom Lake comes up. So what happens? They go into the underground facilities. All those started to be constructed, and they were done with Gray help, with the Grays' help. So kind of interesting.
Well, the other thing that I find awkwardly interesting about the beginning of the 80s to beyond is it was like the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s when the Commodore 64 came out.
Right.
Which was the first mass selling personal computer.
Yep, I have one.
And then until there was that, and then there were a few other computers that came out around that time. And then in 93, they released the first public internet services. Okay? And it's just exponentially grown from then.
Yeah.
But this is towards the end of all of these secret programs. Well, you don't need it anymore if you have people going on Twitter and saying, I saw an alien yesterday. You no longer need somebody to collect that information. They're giving it to you free of charge on every social media site there is.
Yeah, but I don't think they anticipated Edward Snowden.
No, I think that was a little bit of kick in the ass.
Yeah, that's the kick in the ass that just changed everything. And, just like what we mentioned when we're seeing today, I mean, we're talking in 88, this was thrown around. We never heard about it. And then it's poo-pooed and all put off to the side, and it's silenced. And now in 2020 and 2021, what do we have? We have the people who were not in the know, want to know about UFOs, the Congress and all that other people all want to know about it. And what are we seeing? We're seeing these drops of this information that is coming out that, oh yeah, we might have an alien craft. We might have had bodies. Yeah. We may have looked into this a little bit more than we thought we did. And basically some of these underground bases were meant and built just to, provided a location. I guess, and this is one I didn't know about, and I was looking at, kind of blew my mind. And it's near Los Alamos laboratory facility in New Mexico, and it was kind of like a secret base that were provided by the Greys and other isolated areas in the United States. There's a bunch of them, but this thing is called the Ice Caves, which kind of puts me in the mind of my other favorite subject, Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Well, and next week I actually want to dig heavy into Admiral Byrd, because I think Admiral Byrd opened up a lot about Antarctica.
Word.
Oh well, he did. Well, the stuff that went on there, I can guarantee you, was part of the stuff that was controlled.
Mm-hmm.
But it's apparent that these abductions include, much more like simple monitoring experiences of advanced civilizations. I mean, it is like they were doing some heavy-duty stuff,
Right.
It talks about the small probes in '79 got out of hand, and they're putting in the implants and the probes into the brain and other areas. Just crazy stuff. And this is when the Greys also implanted what they call, we always say we're tracked, or we have a tracking device in us. Well, that's what they basically were, under the skin. And some abductees, to monitor their movements and everything.
They don't need tracking devices anymore. Everyone's got a smartphone.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
But see, that was all part of the social conditioning. They've taken everybody and put you in this world that they've controlled so much that's why that's why we call some of the people the sleepers, because this stuff is hard to talk about if you haven't been around it for a long time. I mean, you're like going, well, there's that crazy guy Bear talking about stuff that has got to be all made up, So, but
okay,
it
but
is.
No. If you actually think about it, though, this is just another form of seeing what our reaction to this stuff is going to be. Okay, so back in the day, they would put it in a newspaper. Okay, let's go all the way back. They would talk about it around a campfire. And somebody would be like, you saw what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it became newspaper or letters. Everybody, that was the new form of communication. Mm-hmm. And then it became radio. And then it became TV broadcasting stuff. And now it's all over the internet. It's the same exact information as before. It's just getting to a wider audience because more people have access to this stuff. And because our communication has gone so digital that anybody can get any information they want by saying, hey, Google. He's unplugged.
Yeah,
Okay,
Google's going to tell you everything.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's
it's all disinformation. It's all thrown into all that stuff, So
there's so much garbage
generals
thrown in there that you can't Google anything.
Yeah.
They've become almost perfect with debunking things, making people look stupid. I mean, look at what we've been talking about all night. All these government things going on for almost 80 years.
Exactly.
And there are still people out there going, nope, there ain't nothing to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, really? So the government spent 80 years and billions of dollars and all this resources on a subject that you don't believe in?
Yeah, I mean,
why?
You know, in the research I
But
did
what's
for
wrong
tonight,
with you?
in the research I did for tonight's show alone, the people that came out in videos and whatnot, they said, "Oh, there was no such thing as MJ-12. MJ-12 didn't exist. There weren't any classified documents. That's all. No, trust the government. Yeah. There's no such thing as aliens. They're all demons anyway. You know, there's
right.
Nobody can." I even made the comment in another group. There was a guy that posted about paranormal's not real, and the skeptic side of it. And it's like, I posted a comment. You know, you're the type that could watch a UFO come out of the sky, land in your yard, little green men come out, shake your hand and say hi, and you would call them demons and say it wasn't real. You know, and there's a lot of people like that.
Dude, what did I eat last night?
Well, I mean, that's like people reading looking at the Bible and going, well, don't you realize that that's the most paranormal book in the world?
Yeah.
You know, and it's also like going, oh, look, a baby being born through the birth canal. That's pretty damn paranormal, isn't it?
Right?
You know, but and other differences. You know, it's funny. You know, you mentioned a general, and this was in 19. This goes with Project Zeus, which all these projects all are underneath all the stuff.
You see the same names in a lot of all these different programs.
They're the same people,
you know.
or reincarnations of.
Well, they're the ones that have been using the med beds all the time.
Right.
You know, how do you think Henry Kissinger's 300 years old?
There's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's
right.
You know,
Still alive.
Yeah, in 1980, Lieutenant General Dan O'Graham, the Department of Defense Strategic Analysis, stated this statement: "We need a bold new approach. We must stop competing with the Greys in the areas where we can't win and begin to compete where we have the advantage."
Buy the water.
Good
They're
statement.
allergic to that shit.
That makes sense.
That's it. You know? So all we were trying, you know, basically what we were doing is we were competing against them. And that's where he's the one that said we need to start being at an advantage, because all these other things were kind of coming all together, and the treaties were breaking down, all the other stuff, you know. And if you want to know about Star Wars and this Reagan speech and all of that stuff, and, you know, it explains also, you know, why George Bush at the time, and for I think even after his presidency, was still the head of Magi. You know.
Whoa, you're talking senior, right?
Yeah, and
Okay,
this is
thank
why. Yeah, and this is why he was pushing the SDI programs so hard while he was in office and still in. It's just it may be one of the reasons why when he died, some people got certain envelopes that other people didn't get.
Right.
You know, and but that operation was against possible space threats.
Mm-hmm.
You know, threatening action and invasion attempts by the Greys. Excuse me.
But you know, even
And
if,
other these take, you know, that not go in other ones. You know, it's crazy.
Well, like your quote from that guy, he said, "Stop competing against what we can do and start competing against, use our advantage."
Right.
Basically, that's right out of Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Exactly.
Fight the enemy where he's not.
Right, and it really wasn't. It's basically not the enemy. We were competing with them, trying to get much of their technology, everything else.
Give me your stuff.
Right, exactly. So we had to take a different look at it and go, okay, and that whole thing. I mean, basically. Most of the people don't know, like James, what was his name? Aberson, I think, was the leader of the director of the SDI project. And, it turns up that, it was a total two-based technology discoveries. I mean, it was a project convert against any possible threats or threatening action or invasions against attempted by Greys or other aliens.
Anyone.
Ground-based lasers.
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah,
we're doing this against any possible threat.
Right. You see, because
that way you can look at it and you can say, well, that's aliens, or you can say, well, that's the Russians or the Chinese, but it covers
the
whole
Russians
board.
Were involved in SDI. They would have been having a holy fit, saying, that's why they're talking. That's why the speech, and that's why Gorbachev and Reagan hit it off so great. And said, oh yeah, we, if there was an alien threat, well. The whole way that the Star Wars program was set up is to shoot little peas at nuclear weapons being shot up in the sky. Well, that don't work. Because what they found out that if you're going to try to protect us from invasions or any other things, ground-based lasers are just useless. You can't defend that way. So you need enormous lasers that could be built very large, hydroelectric, run stuff from hydroelectric plants, operational nuclear power plants, and divert that enormous output to sources of laser weapons and put them in space, and then direct them in the other way, And, it's kind of like it's not necessary to be point and shoot. Those have complete targeting systems, and everything else. But just imagine if you had, planet-based laser weapons that are so powerful that you could reach beyond the moon to engage and destroy hostile spaceships. And we see all these things. I mean, and how many videos have you seen where you see this beam being shot at something and you see this UFO going?
I was just going to say, there was one that was from the SDI they showed where they were tracking something floating along in the atmosphere.
Yep.
And you see a beam come shooting up from the surface.
That's my favorite
And whatever
one.
they're shooting at, it moves.
Mm-hmm. It moves out of the way. That's my favorite
Yeah.
one. And, and then you've got the talking monkeys that are going, oh, no, that was just ice particles. No, ice particles don't move on their own. No.
Okay, does anybody else think it's really weird that we come up with this awkward beam that shoots out into space after, I don't know, Tesla dies, we steal his crap, and he was working on a giant beam that shot into space?
Exactly. Yeah. Project Zeus which became SDI and everything else, it gets off the ground on the maiden flight of the space shuttle. So NASA is kind of like going, without knowledge of the real purpose of why they would orbit necessary tracking and data relay satellites. That's what they were putting up there. All for the Department of Defense payloads and laser mirrors. That's what they were putting up there. And you never get to hear what the military part of it is. But through some of these things, you get to release and you get to see that these all the stuff is from this, shuttle Discovery to all of them are used crazy spaceship space shuttle missions. And some of them were even had evidence that reported interceptions, boarding, inspections of shuttlecraft and cargo on 3/13/89. That was one of the things by Graves, going inside the space shuttle into the bay and looking to see what they were actually trying to put up there. That's why the space shuttle and all these things got all that stuff. It also puts a question on what actually is the ISS, the International Space Station. What does it control and what does it do? What are the controls?
There's been some very interesting videos from some of those cameras up there.
Exactly.
Things that look like craft hovering around outside.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And it is.
I'm not gonna say that like
You're not gonna
aliens
say
are
it's
the
aliens,
good
but
guys
it's
and
aliens.
humans are the bad guys here. But okay, just take this scenario in for a second. Why do we always think that the Greys are the ones that are the bad guys? Like, if you think about human nature, okay, you think about all the terrible crap we do to ourselves, all the terrible crap we do to each other. If we're trying to expand out into space and we're still blowing each other up on our own planet, would you want us
Nope.
coming to your planet, knocking on your door?
Nope.
They are probably terrified of what we could potentially do to not only them, but other people, other civilizations, other cultures.
Well, and that's so.
Unless, wait a minute. Maybe the Greys are kind of a bunch of pacifists, and they're getting beat up by somebody out there, and they're going, hey, these hairless monkeys, these guys are nuts. Man, if we can just recruit some of them, we're good.
Right.
Look what they got going, man.
Or maybe that was just an alien trying to convince us of a a false sense of security.
No, but okay. Seriously, humans are designed to be warring creatures. We are designed to come in and take over things
by another race.
like a freaking lice on a head.
And with that, it is time for our last break of the night. When we come back, we will talk a little more about Blue Book and how it fits in today.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
And welcome back to S-4 for the last hour tonight. Tonight we are talking MJ-12. We're talking Blue Book, Project Sign, and Grudge. And how do they relate today? Is AATIP a part of all this? Let's find out. So, Blue Book, like we said earlier in the show, actually started in 52 and went to 69. With a total, just with Blue Book, 12,618 UFO reports, with 700 of them unexplainable. Even the Air Force, they couldn't say it was a bird or swamp gas, or they didn't know. So yeah, honestly, I think we were talking during the break, but it would be smart to actually look back at all 12,600, actually 13,000 if you include Project Sign and Grudge. But they really didn't take these serious. Some of them probably were, Saturn and Mercury and planets and atmospheric issues that we didn't know about back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. Some of them were birds, obviously, and some of them might have been experimental craft, but not 13,000 of them. So they weren't actually taken seriously. So again, in 49 is when James Forstall died in Bethesda Naval Hospital after falling out a window. And what's interesting is there is a classified document that states the untimely death of James Forstall was deemed necessary and regrettable. Seriously? You're going to put that in a classified document? Oops. Yeah, absolutely. So, July of 52 and 53 also sparked the Robertson Panel. So, the Robertson Panel was a CIA panel. And by this time, our military was chasing UFOs in the sky already. We had the UFO flyover in the White House. And there was growing concern not about national security, but about public panic. Flooding the emergency systems and intelligence systems through UFO reports. So the CIA created the Robertson Panel. And they deemed that we are actually more of a threat to ourselves than the UFOs are. Because of the fact that there's so many UFO reports, whether they're real or not, that the public were reporting them too much. And by reporting them, they were flooding our systems that if Russia, for example, was to actually launch a rocket, we wouldn't pick up that rocket because we'd be flooded with, UFO reports. That was their thought process. So they decided to tell the government and the Air Force, stop looking at UFOs. They're not a national security threat. Never mind the fact that they're shutting down missile silos, but, and shutting down power grids. But I don't think it happened like that back then. That didn't really happen until, when was the last missile silo that we actually had shut down? Well, that was in the 80s, wasn't it, Barry?
Yeah, it was in the 80s.
Minot?
Yeah.
Was Minot in the 80s or the 70s?
It might have been the 70s.
Well, Minot had several different things going on, and in 1970, what was that, 73 through, I think, 76, we had quite a lot of those flaps that UFOs were seen all over the place. 73 was the big year of all of the SAC bases being visited by UFOs. I think it was the most reported time.
Well, UFOs love the military and they love war zones. We know that for a fact. So my last point I want to make before we start talking about Blue Book a little more. In the mid-60s, we have the Condon Report. The Condon Committee, so the Air Force was embarrassed by public perception of its UFO handling, as they should be. So the entire program was handed over to Dr. Edward U. Condon at the University of Colorado. He was seen as a skeptic, so they figured, he's just going to brush everything under the rug. Well, it didn't happen that way. Not much was expected by the Condon Report, but in the end, 30% of the Air Force cases were unexplained by even scientists. Imagine that. So, yeah, even being a skeptic, not being able to explain 30% of 13,000 cases, yeah.
What year was that?
That was in the mid-60s.
Yeah, but think about how far our science has come now.
Right.
Like, I'm just saying, on the skeptical side of that, our science has evolved to a whole new level since the 60s.
Right.
And in the 60s, I mean, their idea of forensic science and stuff was,
They
hey,
didn't have
don't
forensic
spit on the
science
crime
in the 60s.
scene. Like, you know? So, there's
Well,
probably a lot of stuff that couldn't have been explained back then that could super easily be explained now.
Possibly. So, did Blue Book actually shut down in '69?
Yes.
That's the $1 million question.
Well, you know, it's like
The thing called Blue Book was, but
Oh,
they
it's
didn't ever
free.
shut anything
Right.
down.
No, I
well,
don't think so either.
yeah, it all went into something different. So what you have is you have Project Sign and Project Grudge were actually still going on while Project Blue Book was going on,
Under Rupert,
being
wasn't it?
controlled. Yeah, being controlled by Project Aquarius and all that stuff. And then in '69, they actually slated it to end in '68, and it didn't end until January 1970. And that's when you see all of the UFO groups coming around, because guess what? If you really wanted to, look at pushing everything towards where you can't do FOIAs or anything else, what do you do now? You get other
private.
people you go private, and you get them to do all your research for you, and they make it public. You know, so what is? Here I am working with MUFON,
Right.
and every day you get to see the top 20 cases that are reported. The first top. I mean, every day you can go to MUFON and look at the last 20 cases reported. So you have. If you don't think the government's going to look at that, I think
they are.
that you know they are.
So what
So
year?
you've got people reporting all that stuff.
What
Go
year
ahead.
What year did MUFON start?
1969. all of the UFO, most of the UFO groups, except some of the older ones that were out there earlier, like AMPRO and some of the other ones. But I do believe that MUFON has most of their files now, most of their stuff from those days.
From what I've heard, most of the original civilian groups slowly got infiltrated by the government.
I was just about to
people
bring that
started
up.
leaving them, and then they'd start a new group,
Especially-
and then that group would get infiltrated by the government, and it all became kind of a joke.
Well, you know, that goes to the story. One of the, weird parts of it, and when you start seeing it, and you talk about Bigelow coming into all that, Bigelow started the UFO Coalition in '74. That was with all of them getting together and doing it, and it was said to be disbanded. But so many of the people that were involved in the top lists of all the UFO groups that are out there, Four Coast, UCOS, all of them, GUFOS, funding for whatever, MUFON. A lot of their people, even in the 90s, when you looked at their bio, they were still part of, they sat on the board of the UFO Coalition.
Right.
But most people were told that the UFO Coalition was disbanded at a
All
very...
those groups got compromised.
Right. Exactly. Well, should they? And then what happens in 2008, that's where you look at the AATIP stuff, and that's where you look at Senator Harry Reid being in Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, in Nevada. and he supports this group, and who gets all the benefits from it as it all comes out with the AATIP program, Lou Alzando, all of this stuff, starting in, Alzando's group said it ended after, I'll have to look at it. I'll come back on that one, but it was all pushed by Harry Reid, and what did Harry Reid put to it? He put it in Bigelow's hand, right. And then Bigelow goes.
That really pisses me off because the Forest Moon Paranormal could definitely use. We're not greedy. We could use $1 million of that $22 million.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be that bad, would it?
You know what the interesting thing about Harry Reid was? He kind of pushed the boundaries there on
absolutely.
Saying we should look into UFOs and all that, and he was really big in it, and he was one of the top legislators in the Congress. And then he showed up one day with black eyes and broken bones and said, "Oh, I had a training accident, and I'm retiring."
Yeah, exactly.
He fell out.
They beat the shit out of him.
Do you know what? It's really fascinating, and I don't think so many people know what AATIP was basically about. Okay, and what it brings into play. AATIP is just an abbreviation. It's the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
Threat.
Yeah.
Threat, the key word there.
Threat. And this is where it gets pretty darn hairy. And, it was, they released after Alzando goes public and release all the stuff, and New York Times carries it, and this whole story comes out about Harry Reid and all of that. It gets pretty hairy, and material, Bigelow does the deal with MUFON, which is one of MUFON's probably weak moments at the time, because
that was horrible.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
it turned over everybody's personal information on
so
everything.
What we do is now MUFON works beyond that and started their own programs and still says it's things, but was MUFON? I'm sure that they were, because this was one of those projects that was a big ordeal,
Here's my issue. So MUFON aside, I get that. What pissed me off about the whole thing, coming from a paranormal investigator perspective, is FMP was big on confidentiality of clients. Huge. We still are. But when you have someone, a psychotherapist, John Mack, who is going to sell out all of his abduction hypnotherapy files to Bigelow, and in essence the government, that goes against everything HIPAA stands for from the medical side.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't there a HIPAA law about that?
Right.
Well, I don't, it goes to that degree, and now it's funny. We hear about TTSA, which was formed after where Alzando went and everything else, and he's actually mentioned in several interviews lately that they're not going to be doing anything more.
Well, no,
and,
all his government contacts left.
Yeah. Well, you see, and then so what happens is, so now they're going to start their own ordeal, and I'm sure you're going to see that coming soon. But that was the one thing with the, as we told you what the threat is. That's what I hated about the History Channels and the TSSA's History Channel, because everything that they made about started to sound like, you've heard me talk about this on the show before, false flag warning from Walter von Braun when he was saying, "Hey, it's the alien threat. It's the alien threat."
Yep.
You know.
Well,
And so
you have to walk in the middle.
Honestly, we don't know what's going on there.
No.
Oh
People say there is a threat. People say there isn't a threat. The point is, we don't know.
Nope.
So there might be a threat that we're not aware of.
But
So
you see the opposites on both sides. I've said this on the show many times. You know, you got DeLong sitting there saying, "Oh, aliens are evil. Shoot them all down." And then you got, Greer on the other side saying, "Oh no, brotherly love. All aliens are wonderful space brothers. Oh, we must embrace them." No, neither one of you know. Nobody knows.
nobody knows.
I mean,
If you don't know, you might as well have the ability to say, it might be a threat. And if you, like you said, forget about the government stuff. What about all the abductees and all the horrible things that people have said about that?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't, someone comes in your house at night and takes you away and does something. I don't care if it's an alien or a human. That's a threat.
And they all bleed.
oh yeah, it's a threat. I mean, taking you away at night and everything else, it's like rape.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at it. I mean, it's no different. I mean, you are taken without your will. You're forced to do something that you would not normally do. If they came in and talked to you and sat down and said, "Okay, hey, we're gonna put this probe up your ass. Is that okay?" And everybody, and you go, "Oh yeah, sure. Let me sign the document that said you could do that. And by the way, put an implant in me and torture me and do everything that you want to do to me." And you got approval.
The stupid part about that, though, is that if they actually were to come and sit down, they'd probably get more volunteers than they get abductees.
Oh, they would.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's exactly right. I mean, that's right, and that's what's so weird.
They're being sneaky. Period.
Yeah, no. The being sneaky takes the trust factor out.
Exactly.
Okay, but at the same time, so I got a question for all of you.
Mm-hmm.
Easter Sunday, you guys gonna ask the pig if he wants to be dinner?
Yeah.
Are you?
This year we will.
Of course.
Do we ask the lab mice if they want to be experimented on? No. Why?
Yeah.
Why would they do it?
Yeah,
for
well,
us?
yeah, I mean, that's
that's
kind of like the that was like the
we
crazy.
are lesser beings to them.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yes.
Okay, so then they're a threat to us.
She said it.
I mean, we kill lab mice, right? Don't think twice about it.
Yeah.
So if we're the lab mice, screw them. If I can only take one of them out before our civilization goes down, I'm going to.
Well,
I consider them a threat.
Well, it's kind of like
I do not believe in the Space Brothers.
No, I don't either.
Yeah. Well, when you look at it, and Friday when I was doing the other show that we do, the Conspiracy Clan, and
that was a good
today,
show, by the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Something new that's we're bringing back, and I'm excited about it. But for those who are out there and looking at it, I got a Facebook. Somebody posted a Facebook thing on me. We know that so much stuff we hear about. This is a great time to be alive. There's so much information. You're going to learn so much. But some people are like going, "Oh yeah, well, I got this post and I read it on the show." And for those who who do not believe in UFOs, space travel, astro travel, remote viewing, astrological and planetary alignments, telepathics, and things like that, it's about to get really weird. And that's the truth. I mean, if all this stuff, just speaking of this stuff, and you can see how what we've covered tonight is very, very deep state, heavy type things, it's just ridiculous. When MJ-12 came out, and I don't know what people know about the history of all this stuff and everything else, but you do know that Truman was the one that started MJ-12. He was also the one who started the national security, the NSA.
Right.
By another executive order on November 4th, 1952. And,
isn't he also the one who signed the Grenada Treaty?
That was Eisenhower. But
Yeah,
you know
okay.
what the primary purpose of him setting that up and how it sets, this is what the NSA's primary purpose was, the executive order in 1952, while he's already set up an order for MJ-12. The primary purpose was to decipher the alien communication language and establish a dialogue with the extraterrestrials.
Well, he sucked at that, didn't he? Well, maybe not.
Maybe. Maybe not.
The second purpose of the NSA was to monitor all communications and emissions by any and all electronic devices worldwide for the purpose of gathering intelligence, both human and alien, and to contain the secrets of alien presence.
Okay, I have always thought about this, and I got a question for you guys. Why do we always automatically assume that the aliens are smarter, stronger, or have better technology than we do?
Exactly.
Well, because
I like the idea that the aliens have been around so long that maybe they don't have any good weapons.
Well,
and they're kind of afraid of us.
I would say
we're a very warlike people. That's like our major occupation down through the centuries is war. We're good at it.
No, not really anymore.
No,
All of our weapons now blow everyone up.
Yep.
Yeah, we
Nobody
got too
wins.
Good at it.
Nope.
Too good at it.
Well, the thing that happens
What do you think we're looking at
and
Mars?
the stuff that what's going to come out, I believe, and you look at Space Force and everything else, well, we're flying around in space. We've been to Mars. We've been to all these places. And that's going to be the top secret thing, because all of that intelligence that was gathered by crashes and everything else allowed us to reproduce those things. It's all been kept secret. It's all been going on forever. And unfortunately, now you're going to find out about aliens being underground. You're going to find out about all kinds of different stuff, and it is going to blow most people's minds to the farthest.
Not really. Not mine.
Oh, I think some.
Some people, yeah.
It's not going to bother them.
Okay, I have a question. All the people that have supposedly met aliens or been abducted, has there been a single report of them having weapons or ray guns or any of that stuff?
Philip Schneider.
I haven't heard of any.
Philip Schneider got shot by
Schneider.
For lack of a better term, a ray gun. And he got a very rare cancer out of it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny, I was talking to an abductee of one of mine here in Kentucky today, and he has never worked in any facility. A lot of people that get this kind of cancers that he has and so forth has been in space programs and astronauts and so forth. And a lot of his things are caused by the problems that he has is caused by G-force and all that other kind of stuff. So he's had cancer 7 times, and it's all the same type of cancer. And the doctor always asks him, did you work in radiation? Where were you radiated at? Where were you doing? And if you're taken and flown around in space and everything else, or exposed in that manner, guess what? You're going to have radiation. It's known to the type of cancer he has is known by the same kind of cancer that astronauts and other people have gotten that are involved in space programs.
Yeah.
You know, which is very weird. Now, as far as you know, the MIB has been considered to be part of that little group. You know, they've got a weapon that a lot of people have seen.
The neuralizer.
Yeah, the neuralizer. And so you've got so many different stories there, and when you're looking at some of the things that the abductees say about space bases or that they've been taken to, or underground bases that they have had experiments at and seen some of the things, it's horrendous on them. And, you know, seeing people in tubes and seeing all this other kind of stuff in hybrid programs and people
exactly.
in cages.
All those
people
stories,
in cages.
and people say there's no threat. Yeah, there's a threat.
Well, see, the people, there are, and you know, it's kind of funny. Through all the time that I've been investigating and everything else, and most of the abductees that you deal with, there are certain trip words that certain abductees use that you know you're talking to a real abductee. And then for some reason or other, there are people who believe that, oh, this is all cherry. And I have the greatest experiences.
Yeah.
Not true.
I call that Stockholm Syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of threats, I'm sitting out here right now and I'm watching a skunk walk around in my yard.
That's a threat.
That's a threat.
Yep.
Get it with a pointy stick.
Pull out the neuralizer.
Yeah, exactly. Get out the neuralizer.
Get out the flashy thingy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Douse it
You
in
know,
tomato juice. Preemptive strike.
So, where do you think this is going? So we're in 2021, and you know, I don't know what to expect in 2021 because you know we're supposed to be in this big alien war that was supposed to go from 2017 to 2021. We're in 2021.
mm-hmm.
And you know,
I'm actually really worried because the government that we have in right now, I have absolutely no confidence in. I mean, every day weird things are coming out, and they're not paying attention to anything, it seems like.
no,
It's almost like theater. Like everything happening in Washington, D.C. is just on this stage over here, and there are all these little puppets doing all this weird stuff. No one's paying attention to the real stuff that's going on.
no, and that's
Yeah.
why we're in 2021. What do we think AATIP's up to? What do we think the alien threat or lack of a threat is? What do we expect for 2021 with anything?
Oh, God. I don't think you want a real answer to that
I
question.
kind of do. I need to know what kind of a gun to get.
Oh, God. I honestly don't think
One that
that's going
costs
to help you.
Big one.
$1,400.
That's okay. We could probably get that.
Anyone that costs $1,400.
A plasma rifle in the 30 megawatt range.
You see, that's the thing. I'm not worried about the human side.
Oh, God. I'm more terrified about humans than anything else. Humans are freaking nuts.
They are, but humans can be neutralized. But you know,
Yeah, the one story that bothers me is the one back, in fact, I think it was in Kentucky. It was probably in Barry's neighborhood,
right?
where the people were out in their cabin and they were shooting at the things, what they called aliens,
You're talking
and
about-
they would knock them over and then they'd get up and move around. It's like it didn't
Hey.
hurt them.
That's the Hopkinsville.
That worries me.
That's the Hopkinsville
Yeah.
case. That was the 1950. Wasn't that in 52, Barry? Where'd Barry go?
I don't know.
We moved Barry.
Hold on. There we are. I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Wasn't Hopkinsville in 52?
It was actually called Kelly, Kentucky, which is just outside of Hopkinsville.
I knew it, Kentucky.
Okay.
And it
No, it
was
was
1950. It was 1955.
55,
And
They're
yeah,
like
55.
goblins. They did somersaults.
Exactly.
Yeah, the goblins.
Exactly.
Yep.
Craft was
Kentucky
seen
goblin.
beforehand. Everything else. Great
Really-
case. Great
Really interesting
story.
case because it actually had
Oh,
a
yeah.
UFO. It had a UFO landing in the field, and then the little goblins came out.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think we've ever heard of that particular race coming out since then. Which is, I mean,
Well, I wouldn't either if you automatically shot me.
what they
I
were
mean,
telling
well,
They didn't come back.
Right?
Well,
I
you're
mean,
not
like, those
gonna
guys
be.
were nuts. They were going to say, hey, and they started shooting us with these weird weapons.
Well,
It
they
was
were
insane.
tapping on the windows. You don't do that. Go ahead and tap on my window here and see what happens.
You know, if you believe in, we all saw that documentary called Hilliard Part 1, 2, 3.
No, actually,
4.
we fell asleep
We
to
fell
that.
asleep.
Yeah, I mean,
Very
that was
boring.
kind of like, yeah. But there's been reports of things roaming around all over the place that are similar to that, and they were comparing that in the synchronicities to it, and it was quite. They mentioned the cave systems, and they mentioned that. So, did they go into the caves? Have they been around? Other people have seen and witnessed the same things as.
Did that did that case hit Blue Book?
That was. I'm trying to.
I think that was in the
Was it?
70s. I think it was after Blue Book was already gone.
I was in 55, and
No, it was in 57. 55, there you go.
Yeah, 55. And I'll tell you that, Robert Schuller at that time, I think he was with the OSI base, and I think he did some stuff on it, and was one of the people that researched it. There were several different cases, so I would say that the Kelly, Kentucky case would have been looked at by the Project Blue Book, Project Science, Project Grudge Group
Right.
at that time. I haven't ever
That'd
seen
be
it.
interesting.
but
Has
that's one
anybody
of the
looked up to
reasons.
see if Blue Book has looked at it?
That's one of the things that, you see that, Project Blue Book is this way. Well, I am one of those type of people that believe that, you can release stuff and say, Blue Book's released all their stuff. Well, what happened to the files?
No, they haven't.
What happened to the files that were taken underneath Aquarius or something else to not allow anyone to be able to see it, which was stopped by the group known as MJ12 Magic or Magi.
Well, haven't all the files from Roswell in 1947 disappeared?
Oh, well, of course.
All the
But-
official military records from
Right.
47, they're gone.
Yeah, and the big part about it is, I think I mentioned it earlier, I wanted it to. When you talk about Roswell, what makes Roswell so interesting, it's the only case that somebody in the United States military, a high-ranking official, came out and said, we captured a UFO, and then they backlashed it.
Yep.
That's why it's so important. That's why so many people look at it, because that's saying that the government was trying to do it. And I'm sure, I don't know whatever happened to that person who did, but I'm sure that wasn't around very long. But, all these different projects and all these stuff's been out there, Joshua, low frequency, pulse sound generating equipment. People talk about hearing hums and everything else. There's so many different programs, and what I think we're going to see, even though the country's divided right now by Democrat and Republican and everything else, folks, look, get out of that idea and look at good versus evil around the world. And if some of these things that we hear and you actually are not seeing and have been so, even talking about UFOs or child Pizzagate or children being rescued from underground bases or anything like that, it's all true. Look at the Nashville thing that happened in Nashville back here in 2020. We don't hear anything about it. We don't hear a damn thing about it.
No.
But what
Completely
was
off
that?
the radar.
Doesn't that sound
And they
like
had the video that showed the little van sitting down the road, but when
Right.
the explosion happened, the explosion didn't happen at the van.
Right, exactly. So what does that say? A low-frequency pulse sound or a low-beam weapon, a pulse beam weapon. And so as we go through this, and if the good and if there is the thing that we were citing from 1940, from the 1940s with MJ-12, and it became the deep state, and it becomes all of this. And if it's being exposed, and some of the things you're going to see, that's where I'm saying that's where this could lead. We could be looking at not a disclosure. This is a major, the dam broke, and here you go, and you're going to get hit with stuff that's never going to be like going, what the hell? It's coming from every which way but loose. I was reading, I won't even go into it, but I saw a thing yesterday about Benghazi. I saw something about somebody else, and if that is all, even a part of it is a truth, holy cow! I mean, you've got to just look and say, "Wow, we need to kill about." Everybody needs to be hung. I mean, there's treasonous things that are going on.
Right. So what I'm hearing here,
You're right,
is that these little Kentucky Goblin guys, you can't shoot them because it doesn't do anything to them, right?
No, they do somersaults.
Okay, so Joe, go and buy a dog whistle. They're 25 to 54 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
I have one.
Blow it in their face, and I bet they explode.
Maybe.
Or play some Slim Whitman.
So,
Right.
why is Joe your guinea pig on that one?
Because he was talking about going out, and he was like, the guns don't work, so what's going to work? So try a dog whistle. I bet
There's
their head
things
explodes.
out here, man.
Right? You got things in your woods?
Yep.
If it doesn't work, though,
Well, then he's in the same boat he was before. Okay.
Right.
not if you blow it right in their
Ain't gonna hurt.
face.
Right?
Now, there is, and it's been known and hidden for a long time. When you talk about murder, the documents state that there has been many military and government personnel who have been terminated, murdered, executed without due process of any law when they have attempted to reveal the secrets of the aliens, the Jason Society, MJ-12, any adult or human being who lives in today's society wouldn't believe it, would not believe our government would commit cold-blooded murder.
No.
Absolutely, they would.
No, I mean, and that's the stuff, and you got the crafts being done. So what could open up and what could happen in 2020 and beyond is
Anyone's
up
guess.
to
So
anyone's
I think,
guess.
I
It
think
depends on if evil wins, well, we're all screwed, and if good wins, I think most of the people who are sleeping, they're going to have, we'll need more medical attention than we will with COVID.
You know what? I've got a trauma kit in my house. I'm ready for it.
That's it.
I think
Well,
in April.
hopefully, if this is the year where something big, a UFO event happens or something like that, then maybe people will stop worrying about Dr. Seuss and Mr. Potato Head.
You know what? I was going to bring that up like 10 minutes ago, Joe. I think, in using Ronald Reagan's words, I think it would take an outside threat to actually pull this country together. because we're so far right and left divided. You're not going to get anywhere. It would take an alien threat for, the far right and the far left actually go, oh my God, there's an alien shooting.
I'm thinking this country is more split right now than it was in 1860s.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree. I think in April we need to do an alien invasion show. What do you think, Cole?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, there you go. There we go.
Okay, wait. Are we talking, we're going to talk about alien invasion?
Yep.
We're going to talk about how to stop you.
How to prepare, how to prepare for alien invasion. Definitely. Those are always
If you
fun
do
to
that
anyway.
show, you're going to have to play Slim Whitman on the commercial breaks.
Exactly.
All right. Yep. Okay.
You
Grab your dog whistles and
it's-
your ultraviolet flashlights.
All right, because I'm kind of plugging in topic ideas for April because we're already booked through March, and yeah.
All right, alien invasion.
Yeah,
I want to
you
do
know,
like a War of the Worlds style alien invasion
Absolutely.
show.
Absolutely.
H.G. Wells, the original story, plus the one that, 1939 with
War of the Worlds.
the other Wells.
Meets
Those
Independence Day.
just have always fascinated me.
Yep. Well, and so much was going on back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, if you
Well,
think
and
about it,
it's
if you look
like-
at the time machine, you look at, okay, so I don't know what it is with the last name Wells, but they have some serious crap that is way beyond their times that they're sitting there and they're writing about,
Well, there's a
and
lot
they're
of
doing
them.
about, and they're
So is Einstein. So is Tesla. So is what's his name? Come on, artist.
Van Gogh,
Yeah, well, Van Gogh too.
Da Vinci?
Da Vinci. Yeah, look over the Da Vinci writings.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know, talk
Oh.
about before his time. And so, yeah, we've been implanted with aliens giving us information and knowledge since the beginning of time.
have we?
Yeah.
Right.
Just got to
Absolutely.
figure it out.
Exactly. And you're looking at what's coming up and what has already been discovered and what's already been done. I mean, from the beginnings of MJ12 all the way through all this time in the 70 to 80 years that it's come across. There's been several people that have looked into the aviary, which is a CIA group that was, could have ties to the MJ12, which is now PI-40 and could be different types of stuff. So folks, if you're looking for research and you want to do all this stuff, then look at some of these projects that were involved with the space shuttle.
I'm going to add to
some
that,
of
though.
these
Look at today's government. The Senate, all the different House committees. Get all those names in one list. Match them with Bohemian Grove. Match them with the Bilderbergs, and then compare them all to all these different project names, and look for
exactly.
Look for
You're
common
gonna see
last
them
names.
all.
I mean, look at the Bushes, for example.
Exactly.
You're talking.
Nobody wants to look at Bush.
Yeah. I mean,
look how far. Look how far back the Bushes go.
One of the funny things about it is that with the aviary, we started researching the aviary back a few years ago,
right?
And when the aviary comes out, what did you find? We joke about and we talk about the X-Files. Well, and the FBI. Well, the FBI is also one of those groups that has been heavily compromised by several things. But the CIA
needs to be removed. I mean, honestly, most of your problems stem from the CIA.
Wouldn't it be Homeland Security's job now?
Oh,
if you actually think
they're all
about it,
compromised.
if it is an outside
It's all
threat,
compromised.
It's all compromised.
You see, that's
all
what's
compromised.
well, yes and no. Homeland Security doesn't have any control of the CIA, though. FBI is still somewhat a part of Homeland Security,
Okay.
domestically, but the CIA is not a part of the 22 agencies within the HS.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Alright.
you would never. We it could be. We don't know it because the CIA is not supposed to work in the United States whatsoever. Domestic.
Right.
It is an international type thing. But as I was mentioning about the little thing with the X-Files, the CIA does have a group called the Weird Desk, and like Kate Green's involved in that.
I want to go work there.
Ron Pandolfi, all of these, Bruce McAfee's, and the reason why they call them the Aviary because they all had code names that are bird names.
Condor.
Yeah. So I mean, like when you go into Condor, let me see. I think Condor's in it. Condor is Captain Bill Collins of the U.S. Air Force, Special Agents Air Force thing with the Falcon.
Right.
Richard Dick Doty, U.S. Air Force retired. So they all have different names, but these people, it's a disinformation program, and they are all out there to protect what is not to be known. And it's coming to so many people who are asking the questions and everything, and that's where it's coming down the line where this is just not an American problem. This is the world problem. It's global. It is a global thing,
All right, so Barry, who do you have on Into the Fire this week?
This week on Into the Fire gets two great guests. We're going to be talking about paranormal and psychic mediums. They both have great paranormal experience and are both psychic mediums, and that would be Richard Rutland and also Katie Turner from up there in Canada. And both of them done a lot of TV work and everything else, and I'm looking forward to having a great show with them. So it should be pretty good.
Excellent.
Yep.
And stay tuned next week as we talk Antarctica and what secrets does it hold. I can't wait to research Admiral Byrd. Admiral Byrd.
Was Admiral Byrd part of the Condor and all that?
No, see, the aviary and everything else is more of a current type thing, and some of them are still walking around and going to UFO conferences and everything else, and
of course they
spreading
are.
whatever else disinformation
I just thought it would be
spread.
cool if it was overseen by Admiral Byrd. I'd have to laugh.
So again, if you want to help Forest Moon Paranormal out, we do have our fundraiser still going. You can, if you want to join the team in your local, send us a message through the Facebook group. I do have a couple applications I gotta still get that I emailed out today. So we'll see how that goes. It is a very intense process because we are being very handpicked, very picky about who's on the team. I'll warn you now. It's going to be a very select few that will be on this team. And with that, we will have Sky Watches this summer, Bigfoot Expeditions this summer. We have the Marble Mountain Sasquatch Festival we'll be going to in August. A lot of fun stuff coming up. So, got any last comments, any last words?
I feel like crap.
Do you?
I need to go to bed.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's been wet and rainy. It's been nasty weather out.
It's supposed to be better next week.
We'll see.
Hopefully. Maybe I can get my garden going.
The meteor will heat it up.
Huh?
It was a super great show, and we enjoyed it very much. Can't wait for Antarctica, so everybody tune in for that.
Yep.
That would be a blast.
penguins.
And next month we'll definitely talk alien invasion. That's one of my favorite topics to talk about. All right, so with that, folks, stay safe out there this week, and we will see you next week. And remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight on S4, the official voice of Forest Moon Paranormal. You can contact S4 through our website at www.s-4radio.com or on Facebook. Make sure you give us a like on our page and join the Forest Moon Paranormal group. If you are interested in advertising, take a look at our packages and contact Cole or Eric at 1-360-999-2830. Again, thank you. And remember, keep your eyes to the sky.